never learned to read or write. He was emperor at 13. He ruled more than 100 million people, the largest empire in Asia. He called his reign the reign of divine peace. His court invented a new religion. His administrative system was still running 200 years after his death. He is remembered as the greatest Mughal emperor who ever lived. He couldn't read the documents he signed. Stay with me, because this is the story of how a man who couldn't read became the most educated person in his empire. His father was Humayun, the man who lost the Mughal Empire twice. If you watched episode 63, you know the story. Humayun spent 15 years as a fugitive, driven out of India by Sher Shah Suri, wandering through Persia and Afghanistan with almost nothing. And it was during those years of exile, in the desert of Sindh, in a mud-brick fort called Umarkot, that a son was born to him and his Persian wife, Hamida Banu Begum, October 15th, 1542. The child was named Jalal-ud-Din Muhammad Akbar. He was born with nothing. His father was a king without a kingdom. Humayun eventually won it back. He reconquered Delhi in 1555, but he had barely a year to enjoy it. On January 27, 1556, Humayun was walking down the stairs of his library in Delhi. The Sher Mandal, a small domed octagonal tower, carrying books, as he always did, when he slipped and fell. He hit his head on the stone steps and died 3 days later. His son and heir, Akbar, was 13 years old. The empire was not yet secure. Delhi had only just been retaken. There were enemies on every side. And now the throne passed to a child. The man who saved Akbar's throne was Bairam Khan, his regent, his guardian, and the finest military commander of his generation. On November 5th, 1556, just months after Humayun's death, Bairam Khan led Mughal forces into the Second Battle of Panipat. Their enemy was Hemu, a remarkable Hindu general who had swept through northern India, recaptured Delhi, and proclaimed himself emperor. By any measure, Hemu was formidable. He had won 22 consecutive battles. He lost the 23rd. The Mughal forces crushed Hemu's army at Panipat. Hemu himself was captured and executed. Akbar's throne was secured, for now. For the next 5 years, Bairam Khan governed in Akbar's name. He expanded Mughal territory, stabilized the finances, and kept the empire intact. Then, in 1560, Akbar turned 18 and dismissed him. He was done being ruled by a regent. He would rule himself. What followed was the most methodical, relentless, and strategically sophisticated expansion in Indian history. Akbar pushed Mughal authority across all of northern India, Rajputana, Gujarat, Bengal, Kashmir, the Deccan borderlands. He campaigned almost every year. He was personally present in many battles. He was not a king who delegated war. But the conquest that mattered most was not military. It was political. The Rajputs were the warrior Hindu kingdoms of northwestern India, proud, ancient, and unconquered. Every previous Muslim ruler had treated them as enemies to be crushed or subordinated. Akbar did something no one had done before. He married them. He took Rajput princesses as wives. And he did not require them to convert. He did not force them to abandon their faith. He invited their fathers and brothers into his court as equals, as military commanders, as ministers. The Rajput clans who allied with Akbar fought for him more loyally than many of his Muslim generals. This was not weakness. This was the cleverest strategic decision of his reign. Here is what we know about Akbar's illiteracy. He never learned to read or write. Historians believe he may have had what we would now call dyslexia, a condition that makes the relationship between written symbols and language profoundly difficult, regardless of intelligence. Akbar was not stupid. He was, by all accounts, extraordinarily intelligent. His memory was described by people who met him as almost supernatural. He could recall a conversation word for word years later. He could follow a complex theological argument and immediately identify its contradictions. He simply could not decode written text. His solution was to surround himself with readers. Every day, for hours, books and documents were read aloud to him. He absorbed histories, philosophical texts, poetry, religious scripture, scientific works, all through his ears. He ran an empire of documents through dictation and oral reporting. Every decree he issued was drafted by a scribe. Every report he received was read to him by an attendant. The result was one of the strangest paradoxes in political history. A man who could not read presided over one of the greatest literary and artistic courts in the world. His court was famous. His 9 closest advisers and companions, known as the Navaratnas, the 9 gems, included Tanzan, the greatest classical musician of the era, and Birbal, a wit, poet, and minister whose exchanges with Akbar became the subject of folk stories still told in India today. The court produced extraordinary art, architecture, and literature. The official chronicle of Akbar's reign, the Akbarnama, is one of the most detailed and richly illustrated historical documents of the 16th century. Akbar couldn't read a word of it. Around 1575, Akbar constructed a building at his new capital called the Ibadat Khana, the House of Worship. Its purpose, to host structured debates between representatives of different religions. Muslim theologians came, from the Sunni and Shia traditions. Hindu scholars came. Jain monks came. Zoroastrian priests from the Parsi communities of Gujarat came. And eventually, in 1578, Portuguese Jesuit priests arrived from Goa, Christian missionaries who had never expected to find an invitation waiting for them at the Mughal court. Akbar sat in the center and listened. He asked questions. He challenged every position. He was not a passive host. He argued. What emerged from years of these debates was something genuinely unprecedented. Akbar developed a personal religious philosophy that drew on all of them, and on none of them exclusively. In 1582, he formalized this into what became known as din-i-ilahi, the divine faith. A syncretic court religion with Akbar himself as its spiritual guide. Din-i-ilahi was never a mass religion. It was a spiritual fraternity for Akbar's closest courtiers. Approximately 18 people ever formally joined it. But as a statement of political philosophy, it was revolutionary. No religion has a monopoly on truth. The emperor is not bound by any single faith's orthodoxy. The state's legitimacy does not rest on religious exclusion. For a Muslim ruler in 1582, this was extraordinary. The empire Akbar built required a machine to run it. Before Akbar, Mughal administration was improvised, personal, and chaotic. Revenue collection was handled by whoever had the local power. Military appointments depended on birth and political connection. There was no standardized system. Akbar built one. The Mansabdari system divided every civil and military official in the empire into ranked grades, mansabs, from the lowest clerks to the highest generals. Each rank carried specific obligations: how many cavalry you were required to provide, how much pay you received, what position you held at court. Rank was not inherited. It was assigned by the emperor based on performance, and it could be raised or lowered. This was a bureaucracy based, at least in theory, on merit. The revenue system was equally systematic. Akbar's finance minister, Raja Todar Mal, developed a land survey and revenue assessment that measured actual agricultural productivity rather than traditional tributes. It was one of the most accurate tax systems in the pre-modern world. To house his court and demonstrate the power of this new empire, Akbar built an entirely new capital city. In 1571, construction began at Fatehpur Sikri, 37 kilometers west of Agra, on a rocky ridge in the Rajasthan plains. The city was built almost entirely of red sandstone, quarried locally. It contained a massive mosque, imperial palaces, audience halls, and a vast courtyard that could hold thousands. It was completed in less than 15 years. Then Akbar abandoned it. By 1585, the capital moved to Lahore. The reasons given vary. Water supply problems, the need to be closer to military operations in the northwest. Fatehpur Sikri was left largely intact, preserved in red sandstone, exactly as Akbar left it. Today it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, one of the best preserved Mughal cities in the world. Akbar died on October 27, 1605. He was 63 years old. He had ruled for 49 years. His son Jahangir succeeded him, and immediately faced a rebellion, including from his own son. The court Akbar had built was not designed for weaker hands. His administrative system held. His revenue structure held. The Mansabdari system continued to function. Modified, stressed, and eventually degraded. For more than 2 centuries after his death. What did not hold was his religious experiment. Jahangir was less interested in theological debates. His grandson Aurangzeb, who came to power in 1658, reversed almost every one of Akbar's religious policies. He reinstated the jizya. He destroyed Hindu temples. He banned music at court. He pursued the kind of orthodox Muslim rule that Akbar had specifically rejected. The Mughal Empire under Aurangzeb was larger than it had ever been, and it began to collapse almost immediately after. Historians still argue about the connection, but Akbar's name endured differently. The Hindus of northern India called him Great Akbar, which in Arabic simply means great, and the name became his title rather than his epithet. The Rajput clans whose daughters had married him maintained the alliance. The administrative structure he built became the skeleton on which the British colonial administration later grafted their own. A man who couldn't read. An empire that outlasted his mistakes. A policy of religious tolerance that his successors dismantled, and that the empire never fully recovered from losing. He heard every word ever written to him. He remembered all of it.